Hey friends, thanks for joining me for the May Fragrance Awards. We are up close and personal today because my little itty bitty microphone decided to cross the great rainbow bridge into microphone heaven and die on me today. And perhaps that's what I get for buying a like $14.99 microphone and thinking it was going to last until eternity. It gave me a good couple of years. It did its job and doesn't owe anyone any explanation, favors, or anything. So we shall bid it adieu. And I'm up close so that I can make sure that the microphone is picking up my voice without me yelling at the camera. I hope you all are well. May has been a particularly intense and strenuous month for me. Let's start with the weather. Normally here in Central Virginia, we get high temps in May. If we're lucky, get in the 70s, but typically we'll start punching into the 80s and 90s, and that humidity starts to enter the room, enters the chat. And we didn't get that this May. It was a pretty gloomy, cold, rainy May. There were days that it was 50 and 60 degrees. That's Fahrenheit for my international viewers. And pretty drizzly and cold and all of the things that would make you want to reach for some comfort fragrances. So you see a few of those in the lineup here today. It's also been particularly intense as a month because of work. It's been an especially strenuous month because of a lot of proposal and project deadlines that my team has been working around the clock to complete, including working evenings and weekends and mornings. And so the last thing that I wanted to do today was fuss with makeup. So here we are up close with just moisturizer and a little lip liner. And you gotta have, gloss makes everybody feel good. Good old gloss. But let's get into these fragrances. Actually, no. Let me first say thank you to everyone that shopped the recent Joma Shop sale. It was called a Father's Day sale, but it ran over Memorial Weekend. Thank you to everyone who used that link, and I hope you got yourself some goodies. If you did shop the sale and picked up something fun, let us know in the comments below. Now, the first category is the best for the season, and I'm going to go with traditionally best for the season, not for how May actually behaved. And it is the lovely Highline from Bond Number 9. And I always talk about what this is, and so I'll skip the explanation of the name Highline. It's in other videos, but I will say that this is a nice, fresh, grassy, clean fragrance that is actually going to be in my So Fresh and So Clean video coming up. I think this is probably one of the most easygoing, mass appealing, almost like aquatic feeling grassy fragrances. There's some florals and some citrus and just a lot of clean freshness. It's decently wearing, moderately projecting, decently long lasting. And I get a lot of compliments on this both inside of my home and outside. And the reason I say that, many of you know that I work from home and I barely get out there in the big wild world. But when I do, and if I've worn this, I usually get some comment from someone that they enjoy it. So this is like one of the easy going, grab and go white t-shirt. Speaking of white t-shirts, I'm rocking a white t-shirt for y'all today, mostly out of laziness, y'all, because I just didn't want to do too much today, except for a little lip gloss. And you gotta moisturize. I mean, we gotta keep the skin moisturized and serumed up. I highly recommend this. This is one that I purchased in one of those Joma Shop sales, and I purchased a little one, and I have zero regrets. I do wish I had gotten the bigger one because it's very easy to continue to spray on this. So good. It reminds me very much of Gap Grass grown up. Like that one was very, if you remember that spray from Gap, put a green heart in the comments if you wore Gap Grass. So yeah, we have so many fragrances to get through. Let me keep going. In the category of best everyday fragrance that I wore in the month of May, so it's Bare Rose, and I've talked about the fact that Bare, the original, to which this is a flanker, is one of my top 10 fragrances now. It's one that I fell in love with last year because it's so dang easygoing, easy reach, and so is this one. I love the bottle shape, and I love the like muted, almost like a mauve rose top on it. I just think this is one of the cutest bottles. I ended up getting a little one because I'm trying not to buy big bottles all the time if I can help it. It does deserve big bottle status. The notes that are highlighted on the Victoria's Secret website that they want you to get out of this. It's rose, pear, and something woody. It's called sheer woods. In fact, in the description, it talks about the base having the warmth of cedar and dreamwood, and the word dreamwood is copyrighted. I guess it's one of their exclusive formula ingredients, and it's supposed to be inspired by sandalwood, Mysore sandalwood in particular. This is so lovely and fresh and easygoing and rosy and girly. Sometimes There are rose fragrances that are, for me, on two ends of the spectrum. They can either be so sheer and so light as to make me wonder if I should bother wearing them. And then there are some roses that are so dark, deep, and gothic on the other end of the intensity spectrum that they can be almost intimidating to wear. This one, if you think about the middle of that spectrum, is more on the sheer end. However, it's just like just over the line onto that direction. So it's got some oomph to it, and I love the sweetness and freshness that the pear lends to this fragrance. I think this is a winning combination. It's very easygoing, very white t-shirt-esque, something that I would not hesitate to wear. You know, with jeans, t-shirt, you're running errands on the weekend, you want something simple for the office that you know is going to be pleasant to other people but not overwhelming. Beautiful choice, very feminine, very light, very fresh, but it still has just the right amount of heft without being imposing to anyone else. Fantastic fragrance. On the opposite end of the spectrum, in the category of special occasion, this fragrance was sent to me by the lovely Jackie at Jack's Beautiful You. Hey girl, hey, and thank you for this fantastic gift. It didn't quite work out for her. It wasn't her cup of tea, but she knows that I love tuberose and thought perhaps I could give it a whirl, and I'm so glad that she did. But I have to give you a warning. When I first sprayed this fragrance, I thought, oh, I guess I can see how maybe it's a little bit challenging because there is this... Ooh, it's a Szechuan pepper note, but what it comes across to me as very quickly in the opening, almost as though you were served a plate of Chinese food at like an upscale Chinese restaurant. So that waft comes off of that, like it was cooked in sesame oil and maybe has a little bit of like an Asian inspired sauce on it. A waft of that. Super quick. Let me tell you what it is. I believe this is called Benigna, Parfums the house, and the fragrance is called Greatness. This almost went into the biggest surprise category because it was sitting over here on my new fragrance trays. By the way, quick pause to say thank you to Allison Botts. She goes by Allison Botts here, viewer. Hey girl, hey. When I asked for thoughts on the fragrance trays, if you remember these marble trays, she actually said, well, why don't you just get a second one and have one on the other side? Well, girl, you don't need to tell me anymore because the whole point of these trays was to have new fragrances on them. So an excuse to fill up a second tray with new fragrances, I'm there. Anyway, this was sitting on my tray to try out. I sprayed it on in this room, the filming room, and then I left. And the surprise is that when I came back into the room, this room smelled absolutely intoxicatingly amazing. And I was like, whoa, is that what I smell like? Because on skin, when I first sprayed it, like I said, I got just a little touch of like bizarreness from that sort of Asian fusion sauce type of deal. But listen, friends, this is so... Let me hold up the bottle so y'all can see it. So luxurious of a smell. Very decadent, rich, thick smelling fragrance. And some of the key notes on the website, well, they say it's a heady bouquet of tuberose and jasmine that takes the center stage. I agree with that. There's a nice, beautiful floral middle to this. It opens with orange flower, that Sichuan pepper, which I know sounds really off-putting, but listen, if you like heady, vintage-y, mature florals, this is almost like a modern version of that genre of fragrances. The middle has tuberose and jasmine, and then the base has ambrette and sandalwood. And I think this would be so elegant for a night out. Now, the peppery type of note, the Asian fusion sauce deal, really does calm down probably, minutes into spraying this on. And please don't be like overwhelmed by the thought of that. And then what emerges is this super luxurious, floral, warm, very warm sandalwoody base to this. And it looks like the bottle tries to portray, with the cap and all that, very sort of royal smelling fragrance. This is something else. It is super pricey, so I'll say that a full bottle is $3.95, and I don't ever see these on sale anywhere. So I just want to say thank you to Jackie for her generous contribution to my perfume collection. Good looking out, girl. And that it is a win. And that's what I love about fragrance. We all love different things. We might have like a Venn diagram where there are fragrances that overlap, but inevitably your taste and the next person's taste are going to be differences. So thank you again. In the category of sexiest fragrance is one of my top 10 for life, and people love to hate this one. Ooh, we're talking about Alien. I love this. I've worn this for years. It is hands down one of the sexiest fragrances in my collection. And the reason that I call it sexiest is in terms of getting compliments from the opposite sex. This is one that does the job almost like every time. I don't work in an office environment anymore, but when I did and I wore Alien, like all the gentlemen in the office would comment that I smelled amazing. It was like a Pepe Le Pew scent trail, and they would like follow me around and ask what it was that I had on. I think we all know what this fragrance smells like. It is jasmine and amber and woods. And for me, it's fantastic. It's very projecting. It lasts long. Some people get like a grape soda-ish kind of smell from the fragrance. For me, it is a happy, almost like an uplifting, bright jasmine, bolstered by the warmth of amber and the like crispness of woods. I love the combination of those three, and perhaps there are other notes. I do get some of the grape soda kind of thing that people claim they get, but for me, this is a warm floral fragrance with lots of happy, bright nuances. I find it to be a very highly feminine fragrance, and I just adore it. And I like that it's called Alien. I don't think the name fits it, but I like that it's called Alien and that was weird for its time, and this strange, futuristic looking flacon that right now feels really dated to look at, but at the time was like kind of funky when it came out. So sexiest. In the category of biggest surprise, I have to give it up to Tamarindo from Memo. This was sent over to me to try from Twisted Lily. So thank you to Twisted Lily. I am a partner with them. And if you're interested in this fragrance and maybe some of the others, you can use Veronica 10, the code Veronica 10 for 10% off your entire order site-wide. I'll leave the link down in the description box. But the reason that this is in the biggest surprise category is two things. One, when I first tried this on, it was like intensely fruity. There was something like a mature note in there that I was kind of like tussling with. I was like, I'm not sure what I think about that particular note. And I let it dry down some and thought, I know I smell good, and I know I smell good to others. But I wonder if that thing, it's almost like an overly fruity note. And I don't mean fruity in the like fresh fruity direction. I mean like a mature, like over ripened fruit direction. And I thought to myself, I wonder how I'll smell to other people, if they will like it or not. And so there were two things that surprised me. One is that when I went out wearing this, people behind counters told me that I smelled good. And I mentioned behind counters because when I leave, I'm typically like running errands and buying things and whatever. So I got told several times the day that I wore this that I smell really, really good. And I didn't think people could smell me across the counter, and they could. And so it is a projecting fragrance. And then the second thing that really surprised me is I kept thinking, this smells so familiar to me. And it was bothering me so much. The day was going and I'm thinking, I have smelled this fragrance before. And here's what it reminds me of. Coco Mademoiselle. Do you get that from this fragrance if you have tried it? It's as though Coco Mademoiselle went on a tropical vacation and decided that she wanted to wear something a little fruity and maybe have a little pineapple drink in her hand. Some people pick up a prominent pineapple in here. I can't say that pineapple is prominent to me. Although I do think there is that sort of deep, sweet, like I said, over-ripened fruitiness. Others pick up a prominent coconut note. There is something creamy in the base. It doesn't feel like coconut or behave like coconut to me. Although if it's in there, I could see how it's sort of a bolstering scent. I feel like I pick up something in the patchouli neighborhood in this fragrance. I haven't looked up the notes, so let's go test if my nose knows what it's talking about. The last line of the description is that it's a joyful landscape, a trail of happiness, a solar scent. I don't feel like this is solar to me at all. I do feel like it is a tropical version of Coco Mademoiselle. The notes that are highlighted for this fragrance on the website are pineapple, jasmine, and vanilla. Yes, there is this nice sort of thickness from that vanilla, a little bit of floral, and there's definitely some fruitiness to it. As I mentioned, there's citrus from bergamot oil, a little spiciness from cardamom. Yeah, I guess I could get that. And there it is, benzoin and patchouli. So if you want to know what this smells like, first of all, it's mature. I cannot see younger folks enjoying this fragrance because there is something sort of thick and heavy and cloying about it. Now, based on descriptions that I have heard from other reviewers, some people think that this is a light, airy, fun summer fragrance. And I don't know if that's like the power of suggestion from the plaque and the description. I have no idea. But to me, this is very much a sort of thicker summer fragrance, kind of like we were talking about Karaoke Heart in the last video. How Karaoke Heart is thick and boozy and has woody tones. And it's not just that sort of light, fresh, refreshing refreshing mango feeling. No, this is the same way. It's not quite as sort of thick to me as Karaoke Heart, but it definitely has some body yaddy yaddy. So I do like this. I think it would take some getting used to for people that were trying this for the first time and expecting something fresh and summery, because it does have significant amount of patchouli in it. So if you don't like that, like I can't wear Coco Mademoiselle because there's something in that fragrance that just kind of bothers my brain. I don't feel like this bothers my brain, but I do feel like it reminds me of the parts of Coco Mademoiselle that I like, except an added pretty distinct, like I said, overly ripe, fruity aspect to this. So that is Tamarindo, and it was a surprise because of those two things. Compliments and the fact that it so closely reminded me of Coco Mademoiselle. For best bottle, I want to talk about a fragrance that has morphed on me a little bit in interesting ways. So I featured this fragrance in a tea fragrance video. I think it was in the fall for International Tea Day. This is from Floraïku, and it's called One Umbrella for Two. So listen, the Floraïku bottles are unmatched to me because of the beautiful artwork on this top piece, which also doubles as the case for a travel spray. Each of these bottles comes with a 10 milliliter travel spray that you can stick in here with a gold beautiful cap, and it's ready to go, which I think is fantastic. And then the little bottles themselves all have a haiku on the back. So this one says, "Our eyes raised to the sky, no rain." We had a lot of rain in May. One umbrella for two. I love a good haiku. It brings me back to being in elementary school and just learning what it was and then trying to impress my teacher by coming up with something really clever as my haiku. This fragrance is often described as a blueberry pastry. And yes, there is a lot of that. Here you definitely get some sort of almost like an artificial blueberry note, like you would get with Strawberry Shortcake and her blueberry friend, like those kind of blueberry tones. Yes, there is a pastry aspect to this. It's almost like toasty, like toast that was in the toaster or the oven just a little bit too long. It's not quite burnt, but it's smelling more toasty than perhaps you had anticipated. There's a tea note, and then I love that there's almost like this slightly burned rice note. And somehow it all works for this nice, comforting, cozy concoction. The reason that I pulled this out was there was a really particularly cool rainy day, and I wanted something comforting, and I thought of this. Let me tell you, if price was no issue, like if I had unlimited fragrance budget, and I spend a lot on fragrances, y'all, I would get the entire Floraïku lineup. They have been accused of having, as a line of a house, low sillage, low projection, low longevity. All of that is true. Like those accusations are pretty much accurate, not for all, but for a good number of the fragrances. However, I still just adore the artistry of the bottles. I appreciate the care with which the ingredients are chosen that comprise the fragrance. And I love the originality of the design, the whole concept, the aesthetic of the house. I recently ordered Skin and Sand in the black bottle with the seashell on the top. So that's on the way, and I can't wait to tell y'all about that. I did sample that one first, but back to this one. What a pretty bottle. What a unique cap. Each of the Floraïku bottles has its own artwork, which I think is just fantastic. And then in the worst bottle category, I may retire this category because I'm over here just clowning these poor bottles, you guys. Maybe I should have a more productive category, but it's kind of fun to look at these monstrosities sometimes that I love the juice in. So I put up with this, whatever's happening here. It's almost, I wanted to be an architect once upon a lifetime. So I like to look at bottles as little pieces of art or architecture. And this would be a really odd building. Like if it were out in a skyscraper setting, this one would be really odd and sort of off balance to me. So I don't care for these bottles, but this is, did I tell you what it is? It's called Narcotic V or Narcotic Venus from Nasomatto, an extrait de parfum. And listen, if you are missing Michael, I'm talking about like the Michael Kors Michael from back in the day, this is so close that you will no longer miss that. It's the same kind of deal. It is a very heady, creamy tuberose, and it has a little touch of like a raw animalic nature to it, but just like a hair of that. It's beautiful, it's classy, it's very feminine, it's very mature. This is not one that's, light, fluffy, and fun. This is a serious floral fragrance. However, it also doesn't overpower. So while the bottle is odd. I think it's forgivable in this case because the fragrance is so fantastic and very easily wearable by white floral fragrance lovers. You will not find this to be, I don't think, cloying, overwhelming, overpowering. It is sort of just the right amount of class and presence and projection and like presence in a room. Did I say that already? Without being overwhelming. So this is a big winner for me, despite the bottle. In the category of my favorite blind buy, meaning that at some point this bottle was a blind buy. I didn't blind buy it in May. But of all the blind buys that were represented among the May fragrances, I have to give it up for this gorgeousness here. Tribeca from Bond Number 9. There's something really special about this bottle to me. I don't know. I can't explain why the texture of this bottle makes me happy to have in hand. Love the sort of stark whiteness of the bottle. It's nothing like what it smells like. I mean, you'd think this was like a light, maybe laundry-esque, musky sheer fragrance, and it's not. This is a very sort of floral gourmand or gourmand floral style fragrance with some amber and woodiness in the base, at the top and in the middle, and actually into the later experience of the fragrance. You get this lovely nuttiness. There's cacao in the fragrance. I don't pick up cacao quite as prominent as I do the hazelnut note that's here, and it's almost like this warm toasted hazelnut, like a drink, like a hazelnut beverage, hazelnut coffee. If you've smelled that, the hazelnut portion of that, if you can sort of detach that from what coffee smells like, that is the warm gourmand touch that you get in this fragrance without it leaning into full edible territory. The floral in the fragrance is a beautiful warm jasmine note that isn't prominent. For me, the jasmine just lends this femininity to the fragrance that it would otherwise not have. It would probably go into like woody gourmand territory if it didn't have the jasmine in it. And there's caramel in the fragrance that folks pick up. For me, the caramel piece is on and off. Sometimes I feel like I pick up something in that direction, and other times I'm just not sure that it's there and I'm like imagining it. But this was a fragrance that I wore on another one of those cold, rainy days when I had to wear a sweater in May. The day that I wore this, I had some pretty intense writing to do for my day job. You know, the job that actually keeps the lights on here at this house. And I wanted to feel enveloped, warm, ladylike, but also like classy and on top of my game, and this does it for me. So this is gorgeous. I'm so happy that I purchased this, and it's not an inexpensive fragrance. So when this first came out, I think it was in the $4 to $4.50 range. You can get this now on discount. Usually in the $200 to $220 range. On rare occasion, it'll dip under $200 on some of the discount sites. So Joma Shop carries this. I think you can find this on eDiscount Perfumes. I don't have a code for eDiscount Perfumes. And I think on occasion, it'll show up on like Fragrance Net and Aura Fragrances and those places too. But Joma Shop is a great place to get your Bond Number 9s. I'm a partner with them and have a link below too if you'd like to shop through that. The next category is not a safe blind buy. So I purchased this maybe a year or so ago. I sampled it when I purchased it. It was a blind buy. I kind of wore it here, there, you know, night, morning, that type of deal, trying to understand it. And finally this May, I took the plunge. And I did it on a day that my husband was traveling for work because I didn't know whether he would like this or not. So I was like, let me pull this out and douse myself in it while no one's here to critique me. What I smell like. This is Initio's Addictive Vibration. Friends, I was blown away by how beautiful this fragrance is. The reason that it is not a safe blind buy is because it is for a particular type of fragrance lover. You need to like them loud. You need to like them powerful. You need to like sweet florals. So if something like a Scandal from Jean Paul Gaultier, you know, tickles your fancy, an Alien that I just talked about, imagine some combination of that in here. There is an alien-like vibe. I don't think there's jasmine in the fragrance, at least that's not called out. Let me check that out. Hang on one second. I was correct. There is no jasmine called out for this. In fact, the notes that the Initio website calls out are, I think it's apple blossom, orange blossom, honey, vanilla, and musk. This is like alien deepened, if you can imagine that, and smoothed out, and added honey, like a nice, smooth, almost ambery, vanilla laden, creamy honey. Not like a syrupy honey, like a creamy honey. This is one of the most luxurious fragrances that I've ever tried in terms of the feel to your nose. It reminds me of how I felt about Naxos from Xerjoff and how that smells on my husband. Now that one is like lavender, honey, vanilla, tobacco. That's a beautiful fragrance. This is almost like a female cousin to that, but heavier on the floral aspects, on the vanillic aspects, on the honey. This knocks me out. This is so freaking beautiful to me. You don't need a lot. I happened to spray quite a bit because I was alone the day that I wore this and I had no regrets. And I just remember thinking, dang, I smell freaking good. I would ask myself out on a date if I met me wearing this fragrance. Heck, I might propose and put a ring on it that night. This is very, very sexy, very alluring. Another decadent, rich fragrance like Greatness is, but just in a honey direction, floral honey direction. And although it says musk, maybe there's a little muskiness, but for me, it's more like vanilla, honey. It's a very sweet, a very sort of mature, sweet fragrance. Freaking gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Lasted all day. Loved it. Loved the way my clothing smelled the next day. Absolutely intoxicating. Probably too heavy for summer, but just right on that cool day that I wore it, and one that I look forward to pulling out more often in the fall and definitely in the winter. This one is a feminine, sensual beast. The next category would normally be overhyped, but I don't have any overhyped fragrances for this month. Everything that I'm talking about deserves the love that it gets. So I'm going to skip ahead to Hidden Gem. And I'm really happy to share this one with you all again, especially after dissing her cousin in the last monthly awards, which was Pear Jam, if you remember. By the way, that found a loving new home with one of our favorite fragrance friends here, Shanetta. Hey girl, hey. Thank you so much for rehoming Pear Jam and showing her some love. So this one is from the same brand, Nette, but this is called Rose Parade. Oh my gosh, what a light, fresh, happy fragrance for spring and summer. Rose, neroli, and vanilla bean specifically are the notes that are called out on the website for this. And I will tell you, this just smells like such a happy, fresh, young rose. Even though it says neroli, for me, it's more like a soft lemon-y, lemon-esque type of citrus in here. And I guess there's this sort of soft sweetness from the vanilla and maybe some other notes, but it's just such a happy fragrance, one that's easy to douse yourself in and little known. Really, really great fragrance. So Rose Parade, I tend to think about like the Rose Bowl and all of those athletic events and other occasions that have big parades where there are floral floats. And as they come by, the very fresh bouquet of flowers is wafting in the air. The rose in here is such a fresh, bright, crisp, clean baby rose. It's so nice, nice and citrusy, easy going, easy breezy, beautiful cover girl, white t-shirt type of fragrance. So check this one out if you haven't already. There are travel sprays both on the Nette website and on the Sephora website. I think it's the only other place that I've seen it sold. I don't know if it's sold anywhere else. Don't love the bottles. They're a little tiny bit goofy, but they're tolerable to me. The next category is worth hunting down. So these are fragrances that aren't, commonly sold across XYZ 10,486 websites. However, I chose this one for this category before I realized that it is no longer discontinued. One of my favorite fragrances from all time, and I am the only person in this house that loves this. Everybody else thinks that it is really freaking bizarre on me and they don't want me to wear it, but I love it. And it's from Fresh, and this is called Cannabis Santal. So I went through a bottle of this. This is my second bottle, if you can believe that. It is not the longest lasting fragrance, so maybe that's a good thing for folks that try it. For me, I wish that it was stronger and lasted longer. It does have a really nice scent bubble when you first spray it and lasts, for me, about half a day or so. I wish it lasted even longer. But this did get discontinued, and I understand that it is back on the Fresh website. So maybe it's not something you have to hunt down, but the fragrance itself, and it doesn't have a cap on it, which bothers me. I always want to go pull the cap off, but it doesn't. It's just, that's what it looks like. This one, it's called Cannabis Santal. I can't tell you that this smells like pot, weed, marijuana, MJ, none of those things. I feel like this smells like a plant. It smells vegetal to me. There's this sort of herbal nature and vegetal smell to it. So if you have plants in your house, after you water them, there's this sort of, and it's not the petrichor thing, so that's not what we're talking about, but this sort of like earthy, vegetal, greenish kind of smell. There's touches of that, and then there's this really soft, almost like a chocolatey patchouli in the fragrance, not an earthy patchouli. And the website says there's vetiver. I can't tell you that I pick up vetiver. What I like about this, it's very unisex. Maybe some would think it leans a little masculine. I call this like my Catwoman fragrance, the superhero fragrance, female form. I think of someone in like a black leather outfit, head to toe, spraying this on and smelling mysterious and fabulous. And I put this on another one of those work days that I really sort of needed like the force to be with me. I needed for the odds to be ever in my favor that day. I wanted to feel badass, if you will. And I put this on. I just adore the scent of this so much. It's really sort of intoxicating, earthy, greenish, patchouli, herbal, vegetal, all of the things all at once. Not your typical female fragrance smell at all. So if you're looking for something different, if you like odd and maybe bizarre scents, I don't find this off-putting, although like I said, people in my house don't like this, so take that with a grain of salt. But I love this, and I don't really want to be without it in my collection. So please try this out. I don't know how you can try it out. I don't know if they have samples on the website. If they do and I find it, I will put the word yes here. Otherwise, I think you can do like a little 1 ounce bottle of this if you're interested to check it out. Cannabis Santal has been special to me for a very long time. So the second one in this category, this one is addictive. If you like kind of floral gourmand types of fragrances, this is Tubereuse Mystique from Bvlgari, part of their Splendida line. Love this like cobalt blue bottle, fantastic. I am about to hear on this and will probably need to re-up at some point in the next year or so. I really enjoy this fragrance. Some of the key notes, this is really a tuberose fragrance. So let's be clear, but it's like a very warm, creamy, rich tuberose rather than perhaps a greener, crisper, more sharp tuberose like you might get sort of in Carnal Flower and those types of fragrances. This is feminine warmth in a bottle. The base notes are vanilla and myrrh. So imagine this really fantastic, almost creamy leaning vanilla type of deal. Myrrh adds this kind of mystery and depth to the fragrance. This is thick and warm and cozy. It reminds me, the closest thing that I can equate it to is Beldopium, which is discontinued from the YSL line. It's that kind of really deep, almost like a resinous warmth. It's so pretty, so like floral and thick and cozy. It's like cozy femininity in a bottle. I love this. So worth hunting down. It's on a number of websites now, including like Fragrance Net. I think Joma Shop sells this, Saks off Fifth Avenue, and a few other places. I'll link all of these below. Next, we will go into the low, middle, and high category. And I do have some lows this month, but let me explain why. So there are two here that came in and they're going back out. They're what you call like a catch and release type of situation. And so let me start with those. The first is the lovely, and this still is lovely. It's called Heavenly from Victoria's Secret, which I still like. So this I used to have in body spray. I shouldn't say used to. I still have it, like body spray form. I have like this much in one of the, remember the big body sprays that Victoria's Secret used to? And I think they still sell them. I have like a couple ounces left of that. Why is my hair sticking out like that? So rude. So Victoria's Secret recently released some from this, I think it's called the Angels collection, if I remember. And in these new bottles, I think these bottles are just precious. And there's a part of me that just wanted to try this again and see if it is like I remember from the body spray. Now the body spray and the actual fragrance from back in the day are a little bit different. This does smell like that still. So if you miss Heavenly, definitely give this a go. And they're pretty affordable, and then Victoria's Secret has a lot of sales. This is a sandalwood fragrance, and it's powdery, and it's got like this almost like a dustiness to it that makes me cough a little bit. And so for that reason, it's a little bit unwearable, and dare I say even a slightly old-fashioned, like for me right now. Although I do still think it's very pretty, I just know I probably won't reach for this often. And so, you know, it was nice to try it again, and it's going right back out on Mercari, or I may pass this along to someone. We shall see. But if you're the person that's been missing Heavenly in your life because you remember it from back in the day, it does still smell the same and is worth checking out again if you think you'd like that scent profile. So rest in peace to you, Heavenly. It was nice to get to know you again at our little family reunion. Then I talked about this in my Clean Musk video, and I stand behind that, but this is not going to stay in my home. It is Javoy's Musk Palace. And so I do think this is a pretty fragrance. It doesn't feel like a me fragrance, which is saying a lot because there are a lot of types of me's in my collection. I have like a really broad range of fragrance interests. You know, this is not the channel you come to and expect that you're going to hear about gourmands or unisex or woody or ambery or whatever. Like, I like a lot of different kinds of things. So I do think this fragrance is worth checking out if you like musk, and it does have a little bit of powderiness to it. There's something in here that leans a little bit masculine in a way that I'm not comfortable with wearing. So I gave this a good few wears, as you can see, and would definitely keep it in my future musk videos as a reference, you know, for people that wanted to try something like this. Now, some people think this smells like amazing clouds. It's like the most beautiful thing they've ever smelled. So for those people, I hear you, and I appreciate that point of view. I just don't think that this one is for me. And then speaking of fragrances that are no longer like me, this is the last man standing, the last remaining Dua in my entire collection. Do y'all remember when I went through my crazy like dupe Dua phase? I got 3,980 billion trillion fulfillion Duas, Alexandria fragrances, oak shot. Remember that craze? So this is Night in the Desert, and it is an imitation of Tom Ford Sahara Noir, which is no longer made or sold. And it smells beautiful. It smells lovely. This is a good one, and that's why it has stayed in my collection. It's got that spicy, like resinous, ambery, dark, deep, wintry tone to it. However, it is so thick on me that it's a little much. It's a little much. I wore it to bed one night, and I only sprayed like twice, and I suffocated myself and my poor husband. So it's really strong and thick, and it is rather masculine. I did purchase this at a time that I was into heavily masculine fragrances, and I am no longer in that phase, though I do appreciate a good unisex fragrance and some masculine leaning fragrances. This is too much for me. So I have other fragrances that scratch that like spicy ambery itch. I have plenty of those, and I think this one is ready to go to a new home. Are you interested in this? It will be linked in my Mercari down below. In the middle category, I do have 3, and they all get to stay on the island of Fragrance Survivor here in this house, but for various reasons, they're in the middle category. I recently did a soapy florals video, and I talked about Chanel number 5. Number 5! This fragrance is gorgeous to me. It is very classic, classy, aldehyde, sort of soapy floral fragrance. And someone in that video pointed out that it's like an amber bomb to them. And yes, it is also that. It's got a nice, rich, ambery base to it. So kudos to that person for realizing that. This is just gorgeous to me. It's very sentimental for different reasons. And the reason that it's in the middle category is because my husband officially dislikes it now, even though he used to love when I wore this. Taste change, I guess. But because of that, I put it here in that it's a hard fragrance to wear without offending people around me. But I just adore this and think it's amazing. So it's staying. And then for longevity reasons and projection reasons, from Armani Prive, this is Gardenia Antigua. And this fragrance is such a nice, wispy, soft floral. Like when we think of tropical florals, so Antigua is a tropical island in the Caribbean that I have visited, and it's gorgeous. I think this is the island that's called the island of like 365 beaches, like one for every day of the year. Amazing, gorgeous beaches. And if I remember correctly, there's a part of the island, or maybe the whole island is sort of arid. And the reason that I bring up arid is because the florals that are in here are wispy and sort of dry feeling. When we think of tropical florals, we tend to think of tiare, you know, frangipani, gardenia, all of those florals that tend to be thick and creamy smelling. You know, they have a lot of sort of weight to them in terms of the olfactory experience, but the florals in here are very light and wispy and airy, like you might get in a desert type of environment. I'm not saying Antigua is a desert. I'm just talking about the arid aspects of it. Anyway, it's beautiful, and there's a little bit of woodiness to it. Very clean smelling, woody, light, wispy floral fragrance, but it doesn't last long. I can douse myself in this fragrance, and you know, within an hour or two, it's very difficult to smell unless you're right close up on the skin. And for these price tags on this line of fragrances, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. But I do like it, and I'm gonna keep it. Easy reach, like an easy out of the shower reach. And I really, really enjoy this next fragrance. This is new-ish to my collection from Mith, and this is called Mellow Musks. I talked about this in like I think it was a New Beauties video a while back. I think this is so great. It's this almost like Play-Doh-y coconut musky smell that's kind of intoxicating. However, it's very soft. This is very sort of like just hovers. I wouldn't say it's a skin scent, but maybe like right past the skin type of deal. And maybe it could feel skin scenty on some people, especially if you spray lightly. The website says that this has sweet, creamy notes of caramel and coconut. I definitely get that beautiful coconut. Ooh, vanilla and musk. Those are the primary notes in this fragrance, and pretty reasonably priced. This bottle on the website right now is right under $70. Really cool to check out. And there's a bunch of really neat fragrances on the Mith website to look up. So I usually end with the best fragrances of the month, or sort of my top picks. I have 6, many of which I've talked about at length. So for the sake of brevity, and because I know this is getting to be a super long video, I'll share them quickly. So these are fragrances that I love. I don't have any performance issues with them, and I would highly recommend them to people to check out. Try a sample, see what you think. One of them is Bizarre. We've talked about the lovely Aura. I recently talked about this in a Forgotten Loves video. In fact, it has the survivor symbol on the thumbnail because this is one that has survived since the beginning of my channel, and I describe it as smelling like Pepto-Bismol. So a few of you pointed out in that video that the Pepto-Bismol is a winter green fragrance. Yes, so I understand that, but it's still like Pepto-Bismol to me, and that's the association that I make. So think of like that sort of kind of sort of minty medicinal scent along with the beautiful vanilla and florals. This is lovely, intoxicating, very feminine, long lasting, projecting, has a little bit of like creamy powderiness to it as well. I just adore the enigmatic, mysterious nature of this fragrance, and the fact that it's like sex appeal in a bottle. And no one ever thinks about Aura as being sexy. It's usually associated with being sort of earthy, but this is the EDP version that has the thick vanilla base to it with that sort of creamy powderiness. I know that sounds contradictory, but that's kind of what comes to mind for this really beautiful fragrance. Then you heard me rave and rave and rave about Chloe Lumineuse. This is a warm floral. There's something so just enveloping and cozy, this like nice thickness. Is it amber in the base? I don't have the notes in front of me, but just like a warm, cozy hug in a bottle with perfume on top, like a floral perfume. This is so delightful and so pretty, so pretty. Another one that's sort of easy to douse yourself in and just makes you feel happy and feminine and loved. This is so, so pretty. I wore this in honor of Sunny at Sunny Scents. Hey girl, hey, love me some Sunny. She mentioned that she recently purchased this video on account of my description of it because it's in my top 10. And this is Vele from Tiziana Terenzi. One of my favorites from the many Tiziana Terenzi fragrances that I have. I think I'm pushing 20 bottles from this house at this point. This is green and floral and sweet and even tropical. There are tropical notes in this that admittedly when I first tried it, I really didn't pick up. As it sits longer, I can see how there's sort of mango and maybe passion fruit or guava or those types of tropical fruity notes in it alongside this very earthy greenness. I feel like there's woodiness and creaminess in the base. This is definitely for me a very creamy thick fragrance and beautiful all year round, and especially sort of punchy in the spring and summer. I adore this. The name Vele is Italian and means sail, as I understand it, like a sailboat sail. So that's an interesting sort of association of wind in the sail with this, although I tend to think of this associated more with, I don't know you guys, like a lush tropical barbecue environment. Like if we were having a cookout by a rainforest or in the Amazon, maybe this would be an appropriate fragrance to wear. Check this out if you can get a sample of it. I will say this is not for the faint of heart. This is a really interesting, almost bizarre fragrance in the same sense that that Cannabis Santal is. It's off the beaten path, but I love it for that. I also recently talked about how absolutely intoxicating Sensual Orchid is from LM Parfums. Sensual Orchid. Like sexual chocolate. Wow. So this is such a creamy, sweet, uplifting, almost cotton candy floral fragrance. And I don't mean cotton candy in lightness. I mean the smell of like if cotton candy existed in flower form, this is kind of a reminder of what that would smell like. And this beautiful, intoxicating vanilla base. Oh my gosh. This smells like the color magenta to me. So pretty, so alluring, so feminine. Really intoxicating on the opening and into the middle, and then it becomes a nice floral vanilla in the dry down. But in that opening, you get almost, and I don't mean cotton candy in like a super sweet way. This isn't sugary sweet, but there is this like nice, almost like ethereal femininity to it. And the base of vanilla and whatever else is in here is just sort of nice, creamy, thick, absolutely intoxicating, very sexy, very alluring, but also appropriate environments where you don't want to be like showing your feminine wiles and you just want to be pretty and have your fragrance project and be noticed by others. Really gorgeous fragrance. Then y'all sold this out several times, and I finally got my hands on a bottle of Pop Heart from Plume Impressions. I've been enjoying, or Plume Impression, there's no S on the end of the house, sorry. I've been enjoying trying this house. I ended up purchasing a sample set. I've now got, I think, 3 or 4 bottles from the house, and I enjoyed some of the samples too. We'll talk about that another time, but oh wow. You know what this reminds me of? Herba Gold. Herba Gold, it just came to me from Xerjoff in the yellow bottle. It's similar in the sense that they have these happy, uplifting fruit notes that almost smell like a fruit salad. This one in particular, I believe, has musk, and there are some other notes that give this a little bit of powderiness. Let me check out the notes for you. So this is out on So Avant-Garde, and you can use my code there. By the way, by the time this posts, it will be the last day to use Veronica 20 as a code. I think the codes are now changing all to 10% off, so it'll be Veronica 10. So if you wanted to shop So Avant-Garde, no pressure, and get 20% off, today would be the day to use that code, because as of tomorrow, I think it goes just to Veronica 10. So the apples, I was going to say the apples that are called out, the notes that are called out, apple at the top, pineapple and strawberry. I don't get any of those notes independently. I can't tell you, oh, this smells like pineapple or apple. It smells fruity and it smells like melon fruits to me. In the middle, raspberry, rose, and magnolia. Yeah, there's florals here, but again, I get like clean melon fruits. And there is musk in the base. I knew I wasn't crazy. There's a nice heaping dose of musk. Similar, I will say, for those of you that are put off by it, it's like Tiziano Terenzi musky. Not quite as musky as some of these fragrances, but in that direction. Musky like Herba Gold from Xerjoff. That same kind of musk. Wow. Caramel, vanilla, and musk in the base. So it's melons, and it's a fruitiness, and it's vanilla and musk. And it's beautiful, very feminine, nicely projecting. It has this spring, summer freshness, although enough heft and presence and weight to it to take you through other seasons as well. I wouldn't hesitate to wear this in the fall or winter because it holds its own. Like, God bless the child that has its own. This one has its own. Pop Heart, absolutely fabulous. It's out on the So Avant-Garde website for $205 for this bottle. It's 80 mils and it's worth every single penny of the retail price, but get your discount off of this today, and tomorrow it would change to 10% off. So, love. And then the last one in my favorites, like the top of the month, this one was almost a surprise because I forgot how amazing it is. I haven't worn it in a bit, and it's, I don't need a prince. Oh my God, this name. Jesus, Killian, like, what are you doing to us? Princess is what we call it. I don't need a prince by my side to be a princess. Princess. I do love this new bottle more than the old bottles. And this one here, I have fragrance on, but I'm going to just spray it on because, dang, this is good. Super intoxicating. Such a fluffy fragrance, like marshmallows and clouds, wispy clouds, like also kind of cotton candy-esque in texture, whereas Sensual Orchid smells like cotton candy in the smell and not the texture, because this is thick and creamy. This has cotton candy-esque texture, light and fluffy. It's like you're wearing a ballet tutu outfit. Oh my gosh. Beautiful, warm tea note, like a comforting tea, some citrus. I think there's vanilla in the fragrance, if I remember. This smells sweet and marshmallowy, wispy, light, cotton candy in texture, and it's tea and citrus. Oh, it is so nice. You put it on and you feel put together in a fresh and young and girly and light and bright way, and ready to take on the world, because you don't need a prince. You don't need a prince. You're already a princess. Oh my gosh, these names. So friends, thank you so much for hanging out while I talked all about the May fragrances that I wore. Before you go, if you are still here, can you put a star in the comments, and please let us know what your favorite fragrance was in May from your fragrance wardrobe. Thank you all so much. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, my friends.